Okay, right, hi everyone, I'm Chris Kenworthy. That's the topic of the talk. I want to ask people, hands up if you are worried about how much to charge and ask clients. Okay. Hands up if you're worried about overcharging or undercharging and losing out on work because of it.
2 hands.
Yeah, 2 hands, double hands at the front here, double hands, right, okay. Hands up if you find the idea of asking people for money uncomfortable at best. At worst, it's like having a bit of sick in your mouth. It's just not, yeah. Yeah, so this is all ringing true with you. Okay, well, I should have put my hand up there. I'm the same for all 3 things, right? And to tell you the truth, it's a problem that plagues all freelancers, and we all go through it, and it still is an issue for me now, 7 years on, being a freelancer, even though you might think I'm a success. You know, hey, I make a living, that's a success, isn't it? It's still an issue for me too. And it doesn't really change, so, you know, don't feel bad about that. So, does anyone remember, it's that lesson at school where the teacher sat you down and said, okay, this is how you put a price on your talents, and this is how you go out into the world and ask people to pay that price?
Nope.
No, I don't remember that lesson either because it didn't happen, right? It's because the education system, at least the British education system, the one that I went through, is geared up to manufacturing injection moulded 9-to-5 drones ready to slot into 9-to-5 jobs, which is fine for the majority of people. But if you're a free thinker, you know, you want to be happy and take control of your own destiny, you've got a challenge on your hands, okay? So I'm with you, and I know what this worry is like about money. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've done the 9-to-5 thing, just in case you're interested, and I have to say that after 10 years in corporate middle management, where the highlight of your day is taking a poo, you've got to get out of it. It's not for you. You'll just know, okay? And I made that decision, and you can change all that. You can be a freelancer and solve all that. So, yeah, where are we up to? Yeah, break the mold. You can earn a living doing what you enjoy, and you don't have to earn loads of money. Becky mentioned it earlier on. We'll come on to that money, the whole money issue, but I'm going to set this all into context about the Human Freelancer Manifesto, which is this. This is what I stand for, and this is what the whole freelancing thing is. And you might look at this and think, what the hell has this got to do with pricing and communicating with clients? Well, first of all, if you choose to freelance in this sort of way, where you choose to work less but earn just enough to live comfortably, that means that there is less stress on you to be going out doing the whole money and pricing thing. You don't have to worry about it quite as much because you make enough to live, and then you do all the stuff that's fun that doesn't involve asking people for money and awkward conversations and that kind of thing. And secondly, trust me on this one, but as you go, say 2 years from now, if you've started freelancing today, this will become so much less of an issue than it is. I know you don't want to hear that now, but it's true, honestly. There'll be other things that come along, like, for example, making more time to do your own personal projects. That will become a bigger pain in the arse than getting the right price and asking people for money, okay? So I want to reassure you, this is all just saying, okay, don't worry, this is a problem, I've gone through it. It's still a problem for other freelancers. We will talk about pricing though, don't worry, I'm going to do what you asked me to talk about. Okay, though. Right. So this presentation sort of got 3 parts really. The first part is this, setting freelancing into context, talking a little bit about what it's like from my point of view, this whole manifesto thing, because a lot of what I talk about price a bit later on makes more sense once you get where I'm coming from. And then the second and third part is about price and pricing yourself and communicating with clients, the third part. Okay, so are you a natural freelancer? I've noticed that there are certain traits amongst freelancers who get the most out of it and do quite well. And I'll describe the kind of characteristics I've observed, and they tend to be independent-minded, sort of free thinkers. They generally maybe don't get on particularly well with authority. They maybe, for example, I don't know if when you've had a job, you think you can do a better job than your boss, you can do it better than he or she does it. That sort of person. They tend to be Just use it. Good with their hands, handy people. They've got lots of hobbies and do different things, not just one thing. They've got lots of interests. They can turn their hand to many things. They're quite organised people, so they can get on with things and motivate themselves without someone telling them what to do. And they tend to be very honest and principled people. They care more about their art and what they do than they care about sort of maybe getting the right price for it. So if that sounds like you're right for freelancing. But I also add to that isn't a prescriptive list, because when I first did this presentation, I told my wife I was going to go into a room full of people hoping to freelance and describe the ideal person, and someone said, that's not me. It's not like that. It's just that those characteristics I've described, they will give you a head start. And I can see that around the room, some people are going, yeah, that sounds a bit like me. Not all of the things I've just described, but some of them. Then you're going to get a head start, so you're going to be okay. All right, so that's the natural freelancer, the type of persona. Something that I wish someone had told me when I started freelancing is that it is quite lonely and it's quite testing. When you do some work for someone and they come back with criticism, there's no line manager to warn you, to dress that criticism up and make you feel better about it. You just get someone ranting down the phone at you, and that can be quite tough, And that's part of the reason why I wrote a book called The Human Freelancer. Copies available afterwards, and that is all about the sort of the confidence and the self-esteem that you need to build, because you can work on that, you can control that, rather than negotiating prices. That's a different sort of thing that relies on two people. But you need that self-awareness, and by that I mean you need to have a good sense of what you're capable of, what you can do, what your limits are as well. When you're, for example, your body's giving you the signs that you're too stressed. You need to be able to be quite tuned into that, and you can develop this and grow this as well. But you need to have a good sense of that. And also, you need to push yourself as well, the bit in between knowing what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. That will really help as well. So that is just a little warning. I don't want to put you off, like I've done in the last slide, but it should give you an idea. A typical day. I'm really selling freelancing to you. This is better, right? You one day, once you freelance, you'll start getting phone calls or email messages from people who've heard about you, and they like what you do, and maybe they've seen your work or heard about you from someone else, and they'll want to work with you, and they'll seek your opinion and your advice, and they'll trust you, and that's a really nice feeling. And not only that, they'll pay you for that, which it sounds unreal. If you've got a talent and you care about what you do, and someone seeks you out and wants to pay you to use that talent, that's a really nice feeling. But better still, they'll go out into the world and they will find work for you by recommending. That is the secret to how you find work, really. And unfortunately, it's sort of a bit out of your control, beyond just doing a good job and being nice to people. That is really cool, and you'll do. I'm a freelance copywriter and photographer, which means I produce the words and the pictures that people use in marketing campaigns. And I've done some really cool stuff, like Ecology Building Society sent me around the sort of into the wilds of Scotland and Devon, meeting people who were building eco homes. And I would never have done that under any normal circumstances. And I met lovely people who fed me pizza and introduced me to this whole, new lifestyle of living sustainably. And that really sort of switched me onto a whole new thing. And I've done other jobs which are rotten, really. Like I did one for a development agency in Leeds, a really well-known one. And they just wanted to invite multinational tax dodgers to come and rape Leeds' economy. And it was awful. And it made me quite poorly, because I just got really stressed out and sick because of it. I pushed myself beyond my limits, like I was talking about earlier on. But those things, those experiences, those ups and downs, they were on my terms. I chose to do those jobs, and it was my choice. It was within my control, and that's quite rewarding. And building this confidence and this belief that you're worth something, that you can go out into the world and you have a talent, that is really important, because if you believe that you are worth something, whatever amount that figure that is, that money, that hourly rate, or the price of the job, you're more likely to get it if you believe you're worth it. Because, for example, you're less likely to be haggled down on price, or, apologise when you send a quote through and go, oh, it might be a bit expensive, sorry, and then be beaten down. But if you stick to your guns and you believe you're worth it, not in an outward brash sort of way, I just mean in knowing that, sod you, if you don't want to work with me because you think I'm too expensive and I think it's a reasonable amount, heck, you're the wrong client for me. That sort of mindset will really help you when it comes to setting your price, which is where we're going to move on to now. I hope. Yeah, it is. Got it right. Okay. There's two ways to look at this. The first side, if you've got your jotters ready, is the simple answers you want to hear. Okay, right. Junior to mid-weight freelancer. So I'd be mid-weight, sort of still early in my career, and you guys would be juniors if you started assuming you're new to freelancing. You're looking at about somewhere between 25, 30 up to 40 odd pounds an hour is what you can probably demand, at least in my sector, which is the sort of creative digital type sector. Yeah, I've met all sorts of people working in programming, graphic design, music, freelance scientists, all sorts, and we generally float around that mark per hour on average. Companies, when you work with them, won't really ask for your hourly rate. They tend to want a price for a job, the project in a whole, or they'll want a day rate. Your day rate is multiples of your hourly rate, so it's 7 hours times your hourly rate. That's how your day rate works, and they normally expect your day rate to be a little bit cheaper than 7 times your hourly rate, because I don't know why, because they're giving you a guaranteed amount of work, I think. That's how it works. And you use your hourly rate to come up with estimates. So what will normally happen is someone will a client, like I was saying earlier on, will phone you and get in touch with a project, and they'll say, well, here's roughly what we want to do, and this is what we're thinking, this is what information we've got, and this is where we want to be in the future. How much will it cost for you to help us do that? And you go away and you crunch the numbers and essentially predict the future, which you can't do properly. No one knows the future, so it's just guesswork, really. And you'll do it using your hourly rate. And it's essentially a process of trial, error, and cheek. So every job you try, perhaps if you think that you're undercharging, you up your rate a little bit or you add a little bit extra on. And everyone goes through this process. Every freelancer I've worked with has always gone through this process. You just edge it up a little bit in line with your experience. And you know what? Everyone makes the mistake of undercharging themselves in their first few jobs. It's just something you have to go through. There's no such thing as a right price first time. In fact, there's no such thing as a right price for every job. It's just totally being attuned to the things within that are unique to that job. I keep a blog at this address here, and I wrote a special post today in case anyone said, yeah, but how do you actually calculate an estimate? It's on there. And it's my process, and you'll have to tweak it to yourself. And you take into account all sorts of different factors, like how complicated it is, what equipment you need, how busy you are at the time, how unsociable the hours are, how much you want the job. There's loads of complicated things like that. So, where are we? Yeah, the simple answer. Okay. And some people, they might start freelancing and they will start with the highest rate possible, and they might get away with it. Fair play to them if you think you can try that. They've just got better confidence than you, and they can try it, and they'll push the luck and they might get it. But I think a better way to do it is to just sort of gradually increase your rates as you go along in line with your experience. That's what I did, and it's taken me 6-7 years to get to a rate where actually I feel way more comfortable with my rates than I did at the start. I should have been more confident. I should have done it earlier on, and this is why I'm saying it's down to you to sort of develop that confidence type thing. The best tip I can give you for getting your rates right and learning estimating is to hang around with other freelancers. Join a co-work, Leeds has got 3 or 4, and essentially it's like hot desking for freelancers. And there's one in Headingley, there's Duke Studios in town, there's loads of them. And essentially, you just knock around with other freelancers and you ask them honestly and say, look, how do you work out how much your job's going to cost? And I guarantee the answer will be, do you know what? I wing it, I make it up every time, and I always get it wrong, and this kind of thing. And it will make you feel better about the fact that everyone's in the same boat and they go through this process. So that's the simple answer. The slightly more complicated bit that you won't find in your average sort of business guide help book is what I wrote about in the Human Freelancer, and I'm really interested in the mindset behind what you're afraid of. So I know that you're worried about undercharging, overcharging, or losing out on work because you got the quote wrong or whatnot. What are you scared of? Okay, so let me guess. It's that a client might tell you you're too expensive, and that might be, quite rude and blunt and upsetting. They might haggle you or beat you down on price. Are these the kind of things that you're concerned are going to happen to you? They're going to, devalue your skills, and you're going to end up doing too much work for too little reward, and you're not going to be able to make a living. Yeah. And then, you're not going to have any work. You're not going to have a roof over your head. You're going to be out on the streets, homeless. You're not going to be able to eat. You're going to turn to prostitution. You're going to get into drugs. They're going to fish you out the Leeds Liverpool Canal, all white and freelance prostitution. They're going to drag you out the Leeds Liverpool Canal, all white, pasty and bloated. Yeah, you're laughing, but that's the chain of thoughts that's happening in your brain. It's catastrophizing. It's thinking that if I lose one job, that's the end of everything. If I get a quote wrong once, that's the end of my freelance career. It's not. So let's look at those worries individually. The two, we'll do some questions at the end. Is that okay? The too expensive one. It's never happened to me, but in most cases, if you're too expensive, two things happen. One of two things will happen. They'll either say, "Oh, that's a bit more expensive than I thought I was hoping for. Is there any way we can reduce the scope of the project, or your time to get this within the budget that we want?" Or the other one, which I found is happening increasingly, probably telling me I should reduce my rates, is that you won't hear anything. The client won't come back to you because they're going out on the market and they're going to different freelancers and they're asking them how much they charge. So you won't hear anything back, so you never learn anything. And you might want to phone them up if that happens. I'm in a position where I don't need the work, so I think, you know what, leave it, okay. But I am still getting other work, by the way. I'm not prostituting myself or anything yet, so we're all right. What's the other worry? The other worry is haggling, someone beating you down on price, so you giving them a figure for how much you think your time is and your talent, and them saying, right, can you knock a bit off? Can you do it for cheaper than this? You see, there's nothing wrong with negotiation where two people have a price that they're comfortable with in mind, and they agree some sort of compromise in the middle. That's fine. That's business, right? When someone has approached you to do some work, and one of the first things they do, this is like one email, one phone call, they start quibbling over price, that is an alarm bell for me. I won't work with someone like that because they are fixated on getting a cheap price. That's all they see. They don't see value, they see price, they see cost, and that's all they care about. They probably don't value your talents, your creativity, how unique you are and the way you work. They just care about price. I wouldn't work with them. That would be how I would handle someone who haggles. So my whole argument, just to recap, is to concentrate on things you can control. So appreciating your talent, appreciating that you are worth this amount per hour or whatever it is that you are going out into the world and demanding. That belief that you are worth something counts for more than trying to get a formula that's right or a process that's right for coming up with estimates and prices. That is where it all comes down to. And nurturing yourself, because quoting and coming up with prices is essentially predicting the future when you're a freelancer. And you can't do it, like I said. It's just not possible. I had an interesting conversation with Susie a moment ago, and it's sort of like, with clients, an estimate at the start of a project where you say, I think it's going to be this much money. At the end of the project, a number of months on, changes from being an estimate to being a price. And the two are not the same thing. An estimate is how much I think it will cost. At the end of the project is how much it actually costs. And there's a difference between the two. So how you handle that with a client is very important. And again, check out the blog. I wrote something about considerate quotes. And how you frame what something costs and how much it is as important as coming up with the figure in itself, because you need to be really careful when you talk to clients and you handle them that you say that this is an estimate. I'm working based on guesswork. This is how much I think it will cost, and it will change. It can change and it will change, and it can go up and it can go down. You know, that's a nice surprise as well for clients, that they say at the end of it, it might cost them less than they thought it would at the start, and it works both ways. And 2 months down the line, you know, they might forget that. They might just think that what you said at the start is what you were going to charge at the end, and it shouldn't be, because reality, you know, the devil's in the detail. Once you get stuck into it, that's when you find out things take longer or they're a lot simpler than you thought they were. I think that's everything. Am I clear on the whole estimate process and the thinking behind when coming? Okay, cool. Right, we've done what you're really worried about. Oh yeah. A little bit more reassurance for you. No client will ever come to you and say, okay, I've got this project that I want you involved in. It's pretty much standard, average. There's nothing unique about it. I expect you've done it several times, many times, hundreds of times before. And you'll know exactly how much it'll cost from start to finish. And I want a figure that I'll hold you to. It just doesn't happen. Every client comes along and thinks that their idea and their project is the most unique, individual, like world-changing idea that's ever come along. And maybe, you know, some of them are, but it's essentially what I'm saying is that clients accept that what they're coming to you with is different and needs to be treated uniquely, and that they need your talent, and it will be last minute as well. It's always last minute with freelance. Every job you get is always last minute. And the way capitalism works is if there's a scarcity in demand, people accept that they have to pay a premium. They have to pay more. And as a freelancer, you're plugging a gap, whether that's a shortage of skill or a shortage of time. You are a premium commodity in scarcity, so you can ask for more money. I'm not saying you should be greedy about it. I'm just saying that when it comes to negotiating that price with the client, remember that. You know, they need your talent, they need your time. So you're coming at it in a good, strong position. So don't get beaten down. Don't let them push you around, you know? Not that they should. If they're pushing you around, don't work with them. But you know what I mean? I'm trying to say, just you're coming at it on it when you negotiate in price, you know, you're in a good position. Yeah. So, what are we going to say? Okay, yeah. Coming back to the whole human freelance thing, and there's a community of people out there who are interested in this. I've just started a meetup that Becky mentioned, and I put it up there as about this whole human freelance thing, this notion of doing, making a living from what you enjoy, making just enough to live to get by, and then spending the rest of the time having fun. And there's a lot of people out there who sort of buy into this, and they really enjoy the idea. And this is the fundamental principle, and it comes back to pricing again, is that you can raise your income, boost it, stretch it, however you want to call it, by reducing your outgoings. Right? This might sound like really simple, patronising advice, but so many people get it wrong. Essentially, you just you pare life down to the necessities of what you need. Now, it's just simple prudence. When I started, for example, I ate less meat, which saved me a lot of money, but also it's actually quite good for you. You know, I'm not a vegetarian, but it saves me a lot of money. I got rid of my car because I mainly work in Leeds. It was a luxury, but I could live without it. I got rid of my gym subscription and just went running and cycling more. These kind of things. I went a cheaper mobile contract, little marginal gains around my lifestyle. And the idea was that if I shrank my outgoings, I could live for longer between jobs. And that is, and it works quite well freelancing, because with the nature of the industry you're in, it's famine and feast. You've either got loads of work, too much work, and you're making plenty of money, or you have no work. It's just the way it is. You know, if you can get a nice steady stream of income working as a freelancer, then let me know how you did it, because it's like the gold standard of freelancing. It's like everyone wants that. The retainer, if you can get a retainer with a client, it's like, that's perfect. So yeah, and it has other benefits as well, like the idea that if you need to earn less, you work less, so therefore there's less pressure to earn more money, and there's less pressure to find more work, and also there's less stress in your life for working. That's the sort of the ideology behind it. Again, it sounds simple, but it works. It's pretty good, yeah? Freelancing, it's a way of life. It's not a career, it's a job. It's like a whole thing. You grow as a person. You go on this long journey of just learning more about yourself and picking up skills and cool stuff like that. And I say all that because that part of it is what stays with you as you go along. This pricing worry that you have about getting the right money and worrying about getting beat down, it becomes less and less of a problem. And I'm not earning big bucks. I should hesitate to add that. I don't make millions of pounds. That's why I'm not smug up here or anything, you know. Okay, right. So this is the communication part of it. We're coming to the end of the presentation, so I'm going to sort of end on a nice little story, and it happened to me recently, so it should make you feel better about yourselves. I did a job in November for a decent public sector client. It was a big job, and I gave them an estimate. And I did the work and I got on with it, and it's coming to the end of it now, and it turns out I was wrong on the estimate. I mean, I was way out. I'm like 2 or 3 days over what I originally quoted, which is pretty bad, you know. It's very irresponsible of me, but hey, I'm a human freelancer. I care about what I do. I don't count the beans. I just get on with it because I love doing what I do, and hopefully that's you guys as well. And so I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to do something about this. I don't want to give any nasty surprises to my clients. So I thought, right, I'll have to write an email. I'll write this email saying that I've got your estimate wrong. I'm 2 days out, and it's going to cost this much more. And I thought they're gonna turn their nose up at it. They're going to say, are you taking the mick? You're 2-3 days over your estimate. It's this much extra £1,000 worth of work in. You didn't tell me about it, and you got on with it. What are you thinking? I can't believe you've done this to me. Right, we're not paying you. We'll pay you for what we said we were going to pay you, and we're not going to pay you for all the extra work you've done because we didn't ask you to do it. And I started to fret about this. This is only like about a month ago, and I started to fret about this. You know, that sort of thing where it starts niggling on you, and you do that very human thing of just sort of ignoring it and pretending it's not a problem, and just kept sort of burying it in my inbox and avoiding it, not doing anything about it. And it was I wasn't losing sleep, but I knew that was the next step, knowing my anxiety. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to head this up. I'm going to write an email. I'm going to tackle this head on. The next day, so I wrote the email, and I said, dear client, this is what's happened. My estimate was this much. It's actually turned out to be this much, which is an extra 2-3 days over what I said it was going to be. That costs this. And I said, the reason I went over is because of this, this, and this. And because I put this extra work in, I added all this extra value. I made it a better job. I think the project's going to be better because of it. And what's important is I didn't apologise for not being able to predict the future. That's important. Right? I didn't say sorry because yes, I've made a mistake, but it was a guess. A guess is inherently a mistake. I was polite though, of course. I wasn't rude. And I didn't reduce the. I didn't chicken out and reduce the price. I didn't knock off 30-20% because I felt nervous about asking for this extra money. And I got myself in a real state for it as I was clicking the send button, and it flew out, and I thought, oh God. Couple of hours, just waiting around. Next, maybe even a couple of days, and they're going to come back and go sling you up, mate. And do you know what happened? 2 minutes later, less than 2 minutes, I got an email, one line from the client, and it said, "Brilliant, Chris, great work. I'll send you a purchase order. You can invoice us tomorrow." That's it. Nothing. They didn't even look twice at it. And the rule here is that life is never quite as dramatic as you dread it will be, and that applies also to freelancing. Okay, it's just we have a habit of catastrophizing, exaggerating things in our mind way worse than they're actually going to be. The majority of people out there, despite what a lot of the British papers will tell you, are good, honest people. They're nice people who want to just do business and they want to make things happen, and that especially applies to business people because they don't view money emotionally. or at least the really successful ones don't, they treat it rationally and objectively. And this is where I was coming from earlier on. You need to, if you work on the confidence part and you treat money in a sort of a, not a hard-nosed way, but money is a hard-nosed issue. If you come at it rationally and objectively, on top of this confidence and belief that you're worth something, you will get the amount that you demand from the world, as long as it's reasonable and you're comfortable with it. And that's how you get the value that you're worth out from the world. You go out and ask this from clients. That's essentially it. One last thought is when I started freelancing 6-7 years ago, I was sat with another freelancer who'd been doing it a long time, and I said, he was fed up of listening to me whine about how I wasn't making enough, and I wasn't charging people, and I didn't know how to do it, and I hate thinking about money, and I'm crap at invoicing and all that. And he said, you know what, have some self-respect. Go out into the world and ask for something that you're comfortable with, and sod what anyone else thinks about it. And at the time, I thought, yeah, right, it's easy for you to say that, but now I sort of see what he means. You can do it considerately, you can demand what you're worth from the world, but you don't have to sort of, you don't have to beat yourself up about this. You're worth something, and just, believe that you are, and you'll go out and you'll get it. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope that was a little bit practical, but mainly inspiring in a good kind of way. You're all smiling at the right bit, so that gives me the feedback I want. Do you want to